Alright guys, so I'm going to give you some normal bodybuilding advice, alright? Vertical jumping advice. No more BBC, no bullshit, just normal, no trolls either. Yeah, just normal bodybuilding advice. Anyways, I want to talk about mind-body connection, okay? So, I want to convince you how important it is to how important the imagination is when it comes to bodybuilding and vertical jumping and any sort of explosive athletic movements. So I want to start by talking about the study that they did. All right, so I realized this the importance of having a good imagination and using your mind to call upon your body, having this great mind-body connection. When I by playing the violin, I've been playing the violin since I was 5. Check out some of my violin videos, right? So I've been trained to basically what the similarity between playing the violin and performing in the weight room is that they both require first a mental rehearsal, then how will you carry out these mental rehearsals that you perform in your head in real life. Basically, how well your mind can connect with your body, and how well you can train your mind to imagine those movements you're going to perform before you perform it. The better you can imagine these skills, the better you're going to perform in your life. So they did the study where they give 2 groups of people. One group where they asked them to a group of musicians, 2 groups of musicians. They asked them just to play the music in their heads. They basically sit there and just meditate about how to play the music. I'm talking about hardcore visualization. All right, I'm not talking about just thinking about okay, playing the violin. No, I'm thinking about you actually sit there. You imagine every muscle that you can that's gonna be activated. You imagine the smell of the room, even. You imagine the way you stand. Basically, you try to imitate as close as possible the real life scenario in your head, right? So the second group did that, and on top of that, they practice in real life. They actually imagine themselves practicing. They use visualization skill to practice, and then in their minds, and then they practice in real life, right, using their hands, and physically they practice. And the first and the second group were actually pretty close when we came to the final test, the performance. So what that means is like they determined that probably 75 or 70, 85% of the practice came, the benefit of the mental practice actually consisted of 75-80% of the final result. So in other words, the first group actually, the mental group actually did 75 to 85% as well as the second group. Of course, you have to practice in real life. I'm just saying that mental practice is very important as well, and it actually could be the determining factor in how well you perform these stuff. So I came to this realization throughout the years that I played the violin. Then people are like, how did playing the violin and studying philosophy and reading about art and drawing pictures and making sculptures, how did that help in your athletic performance stuff? I'm like, everything. I train my mind to imagine. I'm very good visualizer. I can form very distinct and very clear images in my head. Not everyone can do that as well as some other people. So that I think a lot of that came from my training in music and art. So like Michelangelo. Michelangelo is obviously very good at forming images. He said that himself. He said the difference between a great artist and a mediocre one is that the great artist knows how to hold an image in his head. They can rotate images in their head exactly the way they want to, the way it's gonna the product will be when it comes out in reality. So the difference between Michelangelo and someone like a weightlifter is that, or a dancer, is that the product for Michelangelo exists in space. It's the three-dimensional object, a sculpture itself. And for someone like me who is performing a vertical jump, it's the same. I'm also being creative. My creation, the product, exists in time. It's the process, and it's me, right? It's the whole process that includes my body and the jumping in the air throughout time, right? So the 2 endeavors are similar in a way that they're both creative endeavors. You're creating products by translating what's on your mind to reality, but one is through space, one is through time. Anyways, so when I did my 40-inch vertical, I imagined it really, really well in my mind. The shoes I was gonna wear, the clothes I was gonna wear, the room, what the lighting looks like, because I knew I was gonna be performing in that gym, and the people that are around me, I knew who was gonna come with me. Everything, I played that shit in my mind over and over and over again for hundreds of times, especially the nights leading up to the test. In my mind, like before a few nights before the actual jump, before I slept, I jumped so many times in my mind that my brain is primed so well for that for that movement, for that performance. That when I jumped, I felt like I already did it. So I imagined even the number, the 40. Like imagine that as well, and it really came out 40 exactly the way it is. So same thing when I do my squats. Before your PR attempt or even just your regular leg workout, whatever workout, it's very important to even visualize the weight. That's actually the most important thing. Visualize the weight, how you stack the weights up. If you're gonna do 275, stop. If you're gonna imagine, visualize, and mentally practice your squat. Not just that, you have to imagine yourself doing it, like every muscle and the way it feels, the way the bar feels on your back, the way you breathe, the way your eyes are gonna look, everything, every little detail you have to take into consideration. That's why I'm saying people who can't imagine, who can't clearly form images in their head because they're not imaginative enough or they're not creative, right brain thinkers, can't do this as well. And I'll get to that later. That's another point. But what I'm saying is that even the way you stack up your weights, like if you're gonna do 275 for 10, okay, you better stack. You better in your mind, in reality, when you perform the movement, stack up the weights exactly the way you did in your mental practice. If you're gonna stack up 245 plates into 25. In real life, you better imagine that as well, because that makes a huge difference, just that weight, because your brain will know how heavy that feels just by imagining how much that is. Anyway, so and bodybuilding, that's right, bodybuilding. How does bodybuilding fit into this? When I moved to bodybuilding, I was like, oh, maybe isn't as won't be in my advantage, because having to imagine explosive movements like I did before isn't really going to carry over. But I was wrong, Before I was like, okay, I jump with my mind, I practice with my mind, and I was very good at jumping because I was very good at jumping in my head before I did it. So how about bodybuilding? And I realized that bodybuilding is the same thing. Like bodybuilding, like this is how you practice, or how you rehearse, or how you establish that the mind-body connection. You know those diagrams that you see in anatomy charts where it highlights one part of the muscle that is being discussed or being dissected in color, like red or blue, and the rest of the body is just white, right? I imagine myself as that diagram when I do, let's just say, bicep. Yesterday when I did bicep, I imagine myself as like a white, like my body is completely white, it's just lines, or the rest of my body is just like stone, it's just made out of stone, whatever. And my biceps my biceps when I'm doing curls are the only muscles that could actually move. So I imagine myself being one of those diagrams where only the biceps are highlighted in like red or blue or whatever color, like the color pencils that you color in anatomy books. Yeah, I imagine myself only biceps. So I was imagining myself as a statue, a stone statue, except for my biceps. That really helps in establishing that mind-body connection when you only think about the muscle you perform with, just by merely thinking about it. Just try 2 sets. One where you just do a bicep curl without thinking about your biceps, and do another set where you think really hard about your bicep. Just think about how your brain is connected only to your bicep, and how the spinal cord, the whole spinal cord is connected to your bicep. Just forget about all the other muscles. Imagine your whole nervous system connected to your bicep, and the way you lift. You lift by thinking about that. Just thinking about your bicep movement. That's it. It really helps. It helps because technically, I mean, literally, physically, you're by just thinking about your bicep right now. I'm thinking about my bicep lighting up, and my brain is actually sending signals only to my biceps, right? And if you on top of that, when you really actually do the movements, you're gonna establish that mind-body connection. It takes practice too. Like over the course of the sessions, I find that I'm able to recruit certain body parts more efficiently because it takes practice to establish the mind-body connection. Anyway, so next point. Yeah. So what does that tell you about how the brain works? If you look at a lot of explosive athletes, I read this study by Kelly Baggett. He said that explosive athletes are usually right brain dominated. What that means is that they think with their right brain, right? What is the right brain? I don't want to get into the dichotomy too much because the brain as a whole works as a whole, but unity is a holistic system. But if you really want to divide it up, the left brain, of course, is the analytical part of the brain. It's where language and numbers, and you think linearly, right? You think in abstract terms and whatever, right? It's good for lawyers and mathematicians. A right brain is more for imaginative people, like creative people, artists and musicians and athletes. Athletes are right brain dominated because they think in pictures. And if you think in pictures, it's easier for your body and your brain, your whole. It's easier to rehearse a movement. think my computer froze. So like just look at the people who are explosive in nature. The explosive athletes, they all tend to be people that are right brain dominated, right? They have short tempers. They are intense. They're emotional, and they don't really have a lot of self control at times, and those are all traits of a person who is right brain dominated. And a person who is left brain dominated, when you ask them to think about a sprint or a jumping movement, they might think about, they don't think about it in pictures as much as like they try to dissect it through words. They try to describe it in language, and that doesn't work because your brain isn't gonna. You're not priming your body to perform that movie if you're thinking words. That's why if you watch a video of someone squatting or trying to learn a clean and jerk, if you watch somebody dance, your brain is visualizing with the movement. This is what I want to talk about: mirror neurons, right? Mirror neurons. You should watch videos instead of if you're not a very good right brain thinker, you should watch a lot of videos, right? You should watch a lot of videos and really try to activate your right brain to prepare yourself mentally for those movements. Because I know that Olympic lifters, they have their coaches make them watch a lot of videos to prime their right brain. They even make them draw. Can you imagine that? Draw pictures, right? Draw pictures. That's where art comes in, you know. Yeah. See, this is very funny because this is where the stereotypes comes. You know, the stereotype of athletes are stupid and nerds aren't good at sports. There's a truth to that in the sense, not in the sense that actually athletes are actually dumb. It's in the sense that actually athletes are different type of thinkers than nerds. What is a nerd in our society? A nerd is someone who excels at school, and our current educational system calls for the left brain more than the right brain, right? If you SAT and all that, IQ test, all that stuff is more left brain. And those guys who are left brain thinkers, like I said, they don't feel the movements. They don't think in pictures. Their minds aren't they're not going through the movement, the motion inside their head. So when they do perform a movement, then they didn't do it yet. You know what I'm saying? It's like if I imagine myself jumping 40 times. In my brain, I've actually done it 40 times, but those people who actually think in numbers and thinking worse, they don't get the benefit. So that's why that's why quote unquote nerds can play are athletic, because the way their brains are built. And nerds and that's why the athletes and the jocks, they don't like to read because they think differently. They're not into language and math and all that abstract linear stuff. They like to feel and think in pictures, and that's beneficial to them when it comes to their games, or when it comes to moving and dancing and playing basketball, jumping, weightlifting. The difference is not that the athletes are dumb. The difference is the athletes are more likely to be right brain thinkers, and right brain thinkers are more better at imagining their movements, carrying it out, and actually perform better in real life because they have imagined those movements. And left brain thinkers don't imagine their movements. So yeah, most explosive athletes are right brain dominated. This shows the study. So last point about mirror neurons. Then I want to move on and go to sleep. Mirror neurons. It's very interesting because I was talking about watching stuff on watching a movement when you try to learn to lift, right? There's a part of your brain that's called a mirror neuron. I'm sure everybody knows this. It's a cluster of cells in your brain that lights up whenever you see another person perform that movement. So if you see me do this right now, or if you see me jumping or dancing, the way my brain is firing, the way the pattern of the way my brain is firing right now will be firing in your brain as well. You know what I'm saying? It's like the pattern and the mechanisms will be similar in my brain to yours. That's why people enjoy and they love watching sports and watch people dance and watch people move, because it just feels good to just sit there and watch Michael Jordan play, and watch Michael Jordan jump and watch him win even, and then your brain just sitting there eating potato chips and your brain is actually firing along with him. The electric impulses, the patterns are similar. That's why people are attached to athletes so much. Because if you watch Michael Jordan for 10 years every day, your brain is becoming more like him. The way that if you spend 2 hours a day watching Michael Jordan play, in those 2 hours, your brains, both of your brains are moving in slightly similar patterns and mechanisms. And of course, in 10 years later, when he retires, when he loses, you're going to be sad because a part of your brain is losing as well, just like him. That's why people are so attached to athletes, I think. Anyway, so that's just my 2 cents. Yeah, I think I covered pretty much everything. So yeah, so my advice to you is, if you're not a very good visualizer, if you can't form images in your head clearly, just try to daydream more or go on psychedelics. Try to break your barriers up by do some psychedelics and imagine jumping or lifting when you're high and when you're tripping on mushrooms or whatever, or just take up some artistic skills, learn some music. Just try to activate your right brain. It really help. It really help to carry it over to the gym, whatever.